You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius. In a world that shifts beneath our feet, where every headline brings new uncertainties, and every day tempts us with easy distractions, we all, at some point, search for the secret to resilience, freedom, and lasting success. Maybe you know this search well. Maybe you've woken up heavy with disappointment after a defeat you can't quite shake, or carried silent scars from battles no one else sees. The noise of modern life tells us to chase more, to run faster, to hide our pain beneath achievement. But the ancient wisdom of Stoicism offers a different path. Happiness and strength are not granted by circumstance, but forged in how we choose to respond when the world turns against us. The story of David Goggins, once broken, now unbreakable, embodies this Stoic spirit. His journey through pain, self-doubt, and relentless adversity is not just an inspiration, it's a practical map. The 6 strategies he practiced are not reserved for heroes. They are real, hard-won lessons for anyone who has ever been lost, tired, or searching for a way out. Here, in the quiet clarity of Stoic thought, is where true change begins. 1. Accountability mirror. Stand in front of your mirror and look yourself in the eyes for 5 minutes. What goes through your mind? What do you truly see in the reflection? Write those thoughts down. Later, sit with them. Discuss with yourself. This is not a trick. It's the first real step toward changing anything. There are moments when you wake up, walk into your bathroom, and pause for a second before the mirror. You stare at your own tired face. Maybe you notice a few extra pounds, or the worry lines have gotten deeper since last year, and in that silent space you wonder, who is this person looking back at me? Is he really who I set out to become? Have I made peace with him? Have I run from the truth? Or have I finally faced it head on? Strangely, the harder we try to avoid discomfort, the more it seems to follow us. The more we try to appear strong on the outside, the emptier we can feel on the inside. It's a paradox. The mirror doesn't lie, but we dote to ourselves all the time. The real problem isn't that you're weak or lacking discipline. The real problem is the mind's natural urge to protect us from pain, even when that pain is the only thing that can wake us up. Life is less about what happens to you and more about what you do in response. This topic isn't about blaming yourself for what you aren't. It's about radical self-awareness, seeing yourself exactly as you are, no more, no less, and then choosing what to do with that truth. You'll learn how to use the accountability mirror to train your mind for any challenge. We'll go through 3 practical questions, some uncomfortable honesty, and the difference between self-awareness and self-pity. If you're willing to look honestly, really honestly, don't look away. The Stoic core principle here is simple. Self-mastery begins with self-awareness. If you refuse to see yourself clearly, you will never gain control. So let's make it practical. There are so many areas in your life you can take ownership of. But to start, write down these 3 questions on sticky notes and put them on your mirror. Are you the man you want to be? Why not? Are you proud of the man you see in the mirror? Why not? Have you achieved what you wanted in life? Why not? It's one thing to think about these. It's another to face them, morning after morning, looking yourself straight in the eye. I can't stress this enough. Be ruthlessly honest with yourself. This isn't about shaming or beating yourself up. That only traps you in the same cycle. It's about not sugarcoating reality. If you've gained too much weight, say it out loud. You've let yourself go. If you're being lazy, admit it. You're sitting on your potential. Stop blaming work, family, genetics, and the weather. Drop the excuses. You might hear a voice inside whispering, "It's okay, last month was rough. You deserve that beer tonight." But what if that's just another way to run from responsibility? What if comfort is costing you the life you truly want? Accountability means action. Did you mess up today? Stand in front of the mirror and don't let yourself off the hook too easily. But also, don't lose yourself in regret. Instead, commit to doing better tomorrow. This is a discipline. Do it every day. Over time, you'll learn to tell the truth even when it's hard. Think of David Goggins. He was overweight, angry, and stuck in self-pity, blaming his past and his circumstances. Everything changed the day he stood in front of the mirror, called himself out, and admitted the hard truth. He was the problem, but he could also be the solution. That's Stoicism in action. It isn't about being harsh for the sake of it. It's about cutting through the fog of excuses and finally taking control. There's something powerful about the man in the mirror. The way you judge yourself is often how others will judge you. If you look in the mirror and see defeat, self-doubt, and avoidance, chances are that's the energy you give off. But when you see discipline, strength, and pride, even if it's only beginning to grow, others will notice too. So ask yourself, how would you feel if others could see the same reflection you see every morning? For some, that's a wake-up call. For others, it's a source of motivation. If you're not happy with your answer, don't let that bring you down. Let it push you forward. But here's the other side. Be honest about your victories too. Did you show up at the gym 4 days this week, even though you didn't want to? Say it out loud. I'm proud of you. Every honest action, every step forward matters. Celebrate the process, not just the results. That's how you build momentum. That's how you learn to trust yourself. It always comes back to this. Success is not about the outcome. It's about the process of becoming the person who can handle anything. So tomorrow morning, when you face the man in the mirror, don't look away. Ask the hard questions. Listen to the honest answers. And remember, self-awareness without action is just regret in disguise. Turn reflection into responsibility, and responsibility into change. Today, spend 5 quiet minutes in front of your mirror. Write down what you see. Face it, good or bad, and take one honest step, no matter how small, toward the man you want to become. That's the first and hardest victory, and it's yours. 2. The 40% rule. Sometimes, when you finish standing before your accountability mirror, something raw lingers in the air. You've just faced yourself. No excuses, no dodging. But after that, honesty comes the inevitable question. How do I actually move forward when I feel empty, stuck, or worn out? It's strange, isn't it? The more we try to push through a hard day, the more our own mind fights back. You've probably been there. You're halfway through a tough workout, a demanding work project, or just the grind of holding it all together for your family. Your body sends the signals, enough, I can't keep going. Your thoughts whisper, just stop, you're not made for this. No one would blame you if you quit. And here's the paradox. The moment you hit what feels like the wall, that crushing fatigue, that spiral of frustration, isn't your true limit. In fact, It's not even close. Most people never realize this. They stop right there, convinced they've given their all. But, as strange as it sounds, your greatest limits almost always come from inside your own mind, not from the outside world. Stoic philosophy teaches us that pain is not the enemy, nor is discomfort, fatigue, or fear. What truly traps us is the silent, invisible wall built by habit by a brain wired for comfort, not for growth. Don't blame yourself for feeling weak, you might think. It's not because you're lazy or broken or lacking discipline. Your brain is simply trying to keep you safe. It tells you to stay in the comfort zone, to avoid pain at all costs, but that's not the path to your potential. That's just the mind's old program. This is where the 40% rule comes in, a brutal, simple insight drawn from the experience of people who have pushed beyond the line, like David Goggins. Goggins, during Navy SEAL Hell Week or mile 80 of a 100-mile race, would find himself utterly spent. Muscles screaming, mind flooded with doubt, every cell shouting for mercy. And that's when he'd tell himself, "You're only at 40%, you've still got 60% left." It sounds crazy, doesn't it? That's when your body and mind are both on the verge of quitting. You're really not even halfway through your reserves. But ask yourself, haven't you had moments, maybe while running, maybe during a crisis, when you thought you'd hit your max, but then somehow found another gear? That sudden second wind, the clarity that comes when you stop listening to panic and just move. Let's be honest, most of us live lives that are too safe. We do what's required, but rarely what's possible. We avoid pain, and in doing so, we settle for a tiny slice of our potential. The cost? A life of quiet frustration, knowing, deep down, that you could have been more. You may think, sure, that's fine for Goggins, he's built differently. I've got bills, kids, a mortgage. My exhaustion is real. And you're right, life weighs heavily. But the truth is, these rules don't just apply to Navy SEALs or ultra-marathoners. They apply at 2 a.m. when you want to give up on a project. They apply in your marriage when you feel like the next conversation isn't worth having. They apply in every place your brain says, "That's it, no more." The real battlefield is the moment right after you want to quit. That's where the Stoic discipline kicks in. It's not about ignoring pain or pretending you're invincible. It's about recognizing the mind's protective voice and politely refusing to listen just for one more step. Epictetus wrote, "People are not disturbed by things, but by the views they take of them." The mind, in its rush to protect you, becomes your jailer. But in that exact moment, when you feel spent, discouraged, ready to collapse, you can ask, is this truly my limit, or just the limit my mind wants me to believe? Here's the truth. The line your mind draws in the sand is only real if you respect it. Most of the time, you can step right over it and nothing bad happens. In fact, you might discover you have more power than you ever imagined. Mistakes men make? We tell ourselves, "I don't have what it takes. I'll never be as tough, as successful, as disciplined as that guy." We believe the lie that struggle means we're weak. But Stoicism offers a different frame. Pain and fatigue are simply the threshold. Beyond that is growth, resilience, and self-respect. Let's use an image. Think of your comfort zone as a well-lit room on a cold night. You know every corner. It's familiar, safe, and undemanding, but nothing ever grows there. Outside the door is the dark, the wind, and a path you can't see the end of. The first step is bitter, but step by step, your senses sharpen. You learn you can handle more than you thought. I once knew a man, ordinary in every way, who began to walk after work every evening, rain or shine. At first he'd quit after 10 minutes, telling himself it was enough. But he remembered this rule. The next night, he walked 12, then 15. Months passed. The walk became a run. He finished a marathon 2 years later, not because he was gifted, but because he stopped trusting the voice that said, "You're done." So, what's the Stoic answer? Don't chase suffering for its own sake, but when you meet resistance, pause and ask, is this real or just my mind's old story? The 40% rule is not a command to go until you break. It's a reminder that most of us quit far too early in every area of life, work, relationships, health, and dreams. In the end, the obstacle is rarely the body or the world outside. It's the invisible ceiling you put above your own head. Tomorrow, when you feel your mind screaming for relief during that workout, that hard conversation, that moment you want to check out, remember, you're not at your limit. You're just at the edge of comfort. The real you begins where comfort ends. Tell yourself, I have more to give. Tonight, add just one more rep. Take one more step. Stay in the moment, just a little longer than you want to. Then see who you become. And remember, limits are often nothing more than well-practiced beliefs. You get to decide whether to obey them. 3. Jar of victory memories. There's an old jar on the shelf of your mind. Maybe you've never noticed it. It collects dust, half forgotten. But on the hardest days, the days when nothing goes right and your self-belief is running on empty, that jar holds the difference between despair and resilience. Have you ever sat at the kitchen table late at night, replaying your failures in your head? The presentation that fell flat, the argument you regret, the job you lost, or the father you wish you'd been. The mind replays its low points with brutal precision. Odd, isn't it? The defeats stick. The little victories vanish. Why do we remember what went wrong and so easily forget what went right? Here's the paradox. The harder you judge yourself, the more you erase your progress. The more you chase some distant ideal, the less you see what's right here, what you've overcome. It's like running uphill, eyes locked on the peak, never glancing back to see how far you've come. Not because you're weak, not because you lack discipline or drive. It's a simple mental habit, a bias toward the negative, wired by survival instinct and reinforced by modern life. The world teaches men to measure themselves by their gaps and shortcomings, not their growth. But this isn't the full story. The Stoics knew it. So does anyone who spent time in real struggle. You can't build courage, hope, or inner strength on a diet of self-criticism. You must, at some point, learn to notice and honor your own steps forward. This isn't about self-congratulation. It's about balance, about remembering you have, in fact, faced storms before and found a way through. You carry the proof, if only you're willing to look for it. David Goggins, a man forged by hardship and relentless discipline, calls this his cookie jar. When he hit the wall during Navy SEAL training, Hell Week, with its pain and humiliation, its endless hours of running and freezing water, he reached into that jar in his mind. He'd recall losing 100 pounds when nobody thought he could, surviving brutal runs, refusing to quit when every muscle screamed at him to stop. Each memory was a cookie, a reminder that he was not the man who started the journey. He was the man who had already overcome. When doubt and pain howled, he had evidence to argue back. I have done hard things before. I can do this too. It's easy to dismiss this. The mind says, so what? Those are just small things. Anyone could have done that. But notice the trick. You compare your wins to someone else's highlight reel and forget that, for you, those moments were mountains. You discount your own courage. The Stoics would say, don't measure yourself against other men. Measure yourself against yesterday's you. Epictetus told his students, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. The point is not to become perfect or immune to failure, but to be honest about effort and to recognize your victories, even if no one else sees them. Here's what most men get wrong. You expect to feel motivated by shaming yourself for what you haven't done. In reality, shame erodes discipline. You wait for some big win, some grand validation to feel worthy, but you starve your confidence in the meantime. Every day you fail to see your own progress. You chip away at your self-trust. Rational, disciplined men do not ignore their struggles. They acknowledge them, and then they remind themselves, I have a track record of not quitting. I have earned small victories, and they matter. That's Stoicism, not cold detachment, but calm, honest recognition of reality and effort. Here's the challenge. Tonight, when the day is quiet, take 5 minutes. Write down one thing, just one, that you did today that required effort, discipline, or courage, however small. Put it in a jar, a box, or a folder on your phone. Tomorrow, do it again. One day when the weight feels unbearable, open the jar. Let your own words remind you. The man you were yesterday fought. The man you are today can fight again. That's how you train your mind to overcome anything. Not with bravado, not with denial, but with clear-eyed gratitude for your progress. Keep the jar on your shelf. It's your proof, your anchor, your quiet victory. 4. Callousing the mind. There are nights when you sit in your living room, the jar of victory memories within arm's reach. Each scrap of paper inside, small wins from days you nearly quit, but didn't serve as proof that you're not as powerless as your worst thoughts would have you believe. But sometimes, even as you sift through old victories, you still feel brittle inside. You sense that the next wave of hardship might shatter you, no matter what you've endured before. Why is that? Why can a man string together 1,000 days of small wins and still buckle under the weight of a single unexpected storm? It's because real strength doesn't just come from collecting wins. It comes from deliberately seeking out the discomfort you'd rather avoid and learning to stand there unflinching until the discomfort is no longer a threat. The Stoics had a word for this: voluntary discomfort. The modern world might call it adversity training. I think of it as callousing the mind. Let's be honest, everything in today's life pushes you toward comfort. Your phone promises endless escape. Your car shields you from the cold, and your routines smooth away most friction. The paradox: the more we insulate ourselves from discomfort, the softer we become inside. The first real setback, a lost job, a harsh word from a boss, a sudden change in health cuts deeper than it should. Comfort feels safe, but it erodes the very thing you'll need when life turns against you: resilience. It's not weakness, it's human wiring. Marcus Aurelius faced palaces and politics, but he forced himself to sleep on a hard bed and eat simple food. Seneca bathed in cold water and walked the streets in worn clothes, reminding himself, "I can survive this. I am not dependent on ease." David Goggins, a man of our own era, is famous for the same. He started not with Navy SEAL hell weeks, but with the small, almost ridiculous acts of self-denial. Cold showers, giving up sugar, waking up before dawn, running when no one else was watching. Why? Because every small discomfort mastered built a thicker mental callus, a layer of proof that he could endure what most would flee. Maybe you've felt the gap between what you want to be and what you actually do. You say you want to be unshakable, but each morning, comfort wins out. You hit snooze instead of rising early. You reach for your favorite food instead of what your body really needs. You avoid the cold, the awkward, the effortful, always promising yourself you'll start tomorrow. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Every time you choose comfort over challenge, you're teaching your mind that avoidance is safer than growth. You become a stranger to yourself in crisis, because your reflex isn't to stand your ground, it's to run, freeze, or fold. But the Stoic path is different. It doesn't demand heroics, just honest, steady practice. It starts with tiny rebellions against your own comfort. Leave the blanket and take a cold shower. Skip dessert tonight. Walk to work in the rain instead of driving. Go for a run when you'd rather scroll through your phone. Choose silence instead of reacting in anger when someone tests your patience. None of these things is about proving you're better than anyone else. They're about proving to yourself that you can say no to impulse and yes to growth. There's a reason the strongest men you know mentally, not just physically, seem calm in chaos. They've practiced suffering on their own terms. When life delivers pain they didn't choose, they don't flinch. Their minds have been toughened by their own hands. Cleanthes, another Stoic, put it plainly, "I make myself a wretch and still must follow." The mistake most make is to wait for adversity and hope they'll rise to the occasion. But that's wishful thinking. You rise to the level of your training, not your intentions. The man who can stand 5 minutes under a cold shower, who can bite his tongue instead of snapping back, who can do the hard thing first, he's built to weather much worse. The world may never see those little acts of discipline, but your mind does. So, what's the point? This isn't about suffering for the sake of suffering. It's about practicing discomfort now, so when real adversity comes, you recognize yourself as someone who can endure. It's about reclaiming self-respect, one hard thing at a time. It's about freedom, the kind that comes when you're no longer a slave to your comforts. Tomorrow morning, when you stare at yourself in the mirror, remember, the man who can embrace small discomforts today is the one who stands tall when life gets rough. Tell yourself, this is how I build strength. And today, just for 10 minutes, do one thing that makes you uncomfortable on purpose. Strength isn't an accident. It's a choice, made daily in silence when nobody is watching. 5. Power of small wins. Have you ever sat at your desk late at night, scrolling through your phone, and quietly asked yourself, why do I never feel like I'm making real progress? There are days when you look back and see only unfinished business goals postponed, dreams quietly shelved. You see the success stories of others and feel a gap, as if somewhere along the road you missed a crucial turn. The odd thing is, the more we focus on the finish line, the further it seems to drift away. The harder you push yourself to be great, the more you sense your own distance from greatness. That's the first trap. We believe that life changes through one giant leap, one heroic act, one moment that will rewrite everything. But in truth, most of us live in the space between small daily efforts and the loud, shining victories we imagine. The more you chase after those big, flashy wins, the more you feel you're falling behind. And that can be quietly devastating. But here's the hard truth, and it's something most men carry quietly inside. It's not because you're lazy or weak or lacking ambition. The real problem is that we've been conditioned by social media, by movies, by a culture obsessed with results, to undervalue the smallest, most ordinary actions. We ignore the small wins. We dismiss them as trivial, but these are the bricks that build your real strength. Stoicism, at its core, is the art of attention. Epictetus wrote that it's not the events themselves, but our judgments about them, that trouble us. In the same way, it's not the size of your progress, but the steady, deliberate direction that shapes who you become. This isn't a theory for the ivory tower. It's the raw, practical truth that gets men through hardship and chaos. It sounds simple, maybe even a little disappointing, but let's break it down, not as a slogan, but as a hard-won truth. Each day gives you a handful of moments when you could do just one thing right. Get up when your alarm rings. Say no to the second drink. Turn off your phone to listen to your child. Write a paragraph, not a chapter. David Goggins, once an overweight, directionless man, didn't become a Navy SEAL or an ultra-marathon runner by dreaming about finishing 100 miles. He divided the impossible into what he called 1-mile wins. He set out each day to do what was in front of him: one run, one healthy meal, one good choice. Each time he made it through another day, he counted it, he celebrated it, and slowly, almost invisibly, the man who once struggled to tie his shoes became the man who could run through pain most people wouldn't imagine surviving. Here's the common mistake. We wait for motivation to strike, or for life to get easier, or for the path to clear. We set goals so high that they freeze us in place. We feel like frauds if we celebrate the little things. The mind, trained by comparison and impatience, whispers, "This is not enough. This is nothing," and so we quit, or float, or drift. A Stoic doesn't argue with reality. The wise man knows that every mountain is climbed with steps so small that no one else even notices. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, wrote nightly about the mundane actions of the day, choosing to forgive, to stay focused, to withstand discomfort. He never called these victories great, but they added up to a life that mattered. So, what's the alternative? See every small win as a deposit into your character. Each right action, however minor, is a promise kept to yourself. It's not about ego or applause. It's about building a foundation strong enough to weather any storm. Imagine it like this: a stone path laid one pebble at a time. No one applauds as you set down each stone. But years later, when others struggle to move forward, you find your path is firm under your feet. Let's bring this into your own story. Tomorrow morning, when you feel the urge to hit snooze, remember, getting up is a win. When you're tempted to skip the gym and you still put on your shoes, count it. If you listen, really listen to your partner or your child for 5 quiet minutes, write it down. At the end of the week, look at these small acts. Let them remind you of the person you're becoming. Don't be fooled by the myth of overnight transformation. The mind is trained, not in one burst of effort, but in the daily repetition of what is right. Small wins aren't small, they're the only kind that last. So, as you close this page, take a moment. Breathe. Ask yourself, what small right thing can I do in the next hour? Then do it. Not for anyone else, for yourself, for the road ahead, for the quiet victory that one day becomes a life you're proud to claim. 6. Power of why. You finish the day crossing off one more small win. Maybe it's sticking to your morning run. Maybe it's simply not losing your temper with your kids after work. Each win matters. But some evenings, as you look at your list, a quiet question lingers. Why do I bother at all? The day ends, you lie in bed, and the mind drifts. What's the point of all these routines? What really keeps you moving when things get tough? There are moments, late at night, when you feel the silence pressing in. You start to see the pattern. The more you try to fill your life with doing, the more empty it sometimes feels. You accomplish something, but the sense of fulfillment slips away as quickly as it came. You start to realize that it's not just about winning or finishing tasks. The real fuel isn't the achievement itself, it's the reason behind it. That's the paradox. The harder you chase results without a reason, the faster motivation fades. Let's be clear. It's not because you're weak, lazy, or broken. The mind needs a compass, a reason to aim for, a cause to stand up for. If you only move because others expect you to, or because you fear failure, discipline will eventually crumble. But if your why is strong, you can stand in any storm. Stoic thinkers have always known this. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you don't have a consistent purpose in life, you can't live a consistent life." The why is what pulls you up when everything else pushes you down. It's what keeps you from quitting, not because the world gets easier, but because you become harder to knock over. Take David Goggins, for example, a man who ran ultra-marathons, survived Navy SEAL training, and pushed through pain that would break most men. People see the discipline, the physical toughness. But underneath all that is a why built on scars. Goggins wanted more than just records. He wanted to prove, first to himself, that he could escape a life defined by abuse, by being overlooked, by being told he'd never amount to anything. He ran not for trophies, but to transform pain into purpose, and to show others they could do the same. That's why, even after reaching milestones most would never dare to attempt, he didn't stop. His why was never about external success. It was about living up to his deepest reason. Here's the mistake so many of us make. We chase discipline for its own sake, or for applause from the crowd. We keep score, hoping that someday we'll finally feel enough. But when the applause dies out, when the world is quiet, and the routine feels endless, only a powerful why will get you out of bed. You don't stick to discipline by force, you stick because you're driven by meaning. It's tempting to copy someone else's goals, but true self-mastery isn't built on borrowed dreams. It's forged in the hard, honest work of asking yourself, what do I really want? Who do I want to become? Why does this matter to me, not just to others? Sometimes it takes hitting bottom or losing your way to realize you've been chasing the wrong things. The Stoics never promised life would be easy. They taught us to choose what's meaningful, then commit with everything we have. If you want real change, start there. Don't settle for hollow resolutions or fleeting motivation. Dig for the reason that keeps burning when the world gives you nothing back. That's the root of discipline that lasts. So tonight, as you close the day and face the silence, don't just ask what you did, ask why you did it. Let that question shape you, anchor you, and give you the strength to do what's right, even when nobody's watching. The mind trained by a powerful why can overcome anything. Tomorrow, when routine feels pointless or obstacles seem too heavy, remember this: discipline dies where meaning is absent, but where your reason is clear and personal, you become unbreakable. Pause for a moment. Write down in your own words why you want to change. Let it be the promise you keep when nothing else makes sense. That's how you train your mind, not just for today, but for every challenge to come. David Goggins' journey is more than a story of relentless willpower. It's living proof of the timeless Stoic values: self-awareness, personal responsibility, resilience in the face of fleeting emotion, perseverance in daily right action, and the pursuit of deeper meaning behind every choice. The 6 success strategies we explored aren't magic formulas, but a practical roadmap for anyone seeking real strength and self-mastery, just as the Stoics practiced thousands of years ago. Lasting change begins with one small step. Try one of these strategies today and move a little closer each day to the inner freedom and calm that both Stoic philosophy and David Goggins invite us to discover. Which of these strategies resonates most with your own life right now? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your experiences. If you found value here, please like, share, and subscribe. Don't miss the next chapter on your Stoic journey. Just click the videos that appear at the end.